The following video has been sponsored by Atlas and their upcoming game, Unicorn Overlord. More about that in a bit. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is insane. Singing piranha plants, upside down oceans, whatever these things are supposed to be, and much, much more. Even the badges aren't safe from this madness. I mean, just look at this one. It makes it so you literally cannot stop jumping. That sounds incredibly annoying. Although, maybe that's something worth trying. Is it possible to beat Super Mario Bros. Wonder while always jumping? So yeah, this is a bit of an inversion from what I'm used to. In any case, the rules will be as follows. We will have to equip the Spring Feet badge for every single level we play in our attempt to beat Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Now there is the slight wrinkle that you can't actually obtain the Spring Feet badge until World 2, so what I'm going to do is play like normal in order to get the badge, then go back to the very start of the game and play through from the beginning with the badge, making sure to keep track of the unlock requirements for all the levels and only play ones which we have unlocked through our actions with the badge. I hope that all made sense. Now let's get into the game. The first few levels are arguably easier than normal. Our jumps don't need to be particularly precise in position or timing, our maximum jump height is actually higher than normal, and the Wonder Seeds in these levels are right along the critical path, basically no diversion or special challenge required to obtain them. Then in the second half of World 1, as the levels become a bit more intricate and cramped, we're insulated from the increased difficulty by the fact that we don't need to worry about the Wonder Seeds hidden within the levels, since we've already stockpiled so many in the first 4. This leaves us able to be pretty choosy in our Wonder Seed selection, and therefore get to the castle pretty easily. The castle itself is probably the hardest level we've faced yet, but that's not saying much. Ultimately, we get past it relatively easily. The Petal Isles greet us with a lot of water-based levels, which our badge doesn't really have much bearing on. That and Bluebird Roost, which, thanks to its verticality, arguably falls under the category of levels that are easier in this challenge. If you don't senselessly jump into the projectiles, that is. World 2 greets us with Out of My Way Valley, where once again a higher maximum jump height actually proves to be quite a boon, especially as it pertains to clearing the ice blocks. Condart's Way is similarly unproblematic. Then I had to go ahead and give myself an unnecessarily hard time. See, I was quite interested in getting back to purely organic progression instead of me having to keep track of Wonder Seeds and unlock criteria myself, so I figured out how to just get all the same Wonder Seeds I had acquired when unlocking the badge, now in the actual challenge. That meant it was time for Jump, Jump, Jump. Now you'd think a level like Jump, Jump, Jump would be great for this challenge since constantly jumping is basically our MO. Oh, how wrong you'd be. As it turns out, lacking control of precisely when you jump is somewhat detrimental when attempting such a jump-heavy, strictly timed level. More so when you consider that the beat dictating the ideal pace of said jumps is not consistent, rather hastening as you progress. That means you can't really get into a clear, clean rhythm as you go through, you gotta be constantly adapting. And that's not even to mention the fact that even in this level, jumping from the exact position you landed your previous jump often isn't a very good approach. But that's what we're stuck with, so let's try to manage our timing and momentum and get to work. Luckily, the next level was quite literally custom built for Spring Feet to tackle, so it goes by pretty easily. Up and down with puffy lifts went pretty well, thanks in large part to the fact that generally their descent is a hazard, Constantly jumping helps to prevent said hazard from coming to fruition significantly. But if you do need one to go lower for some reason, a ground pound will do the trick. The airship level is pretty easy, and then we come to countdown drop down, where every time you land on one of these countdown platforms, they inch closer to collapsing entirely. I'm sure you can understand why constantly jumping isn't exactly beneficial under such circumstances. But remember how we have a higher maximum jump height than normal? As it turns out, it's so high that we can actually stay in the air long enough for the platforms to start counting back up. Also, we can rail Blackatu pretty easily, which helps quite a bit as well. Zip Go Round is a gimme, and then there's the castle with a lot of annoyingly placed piranha plants and fireballs. Normally I like to rush through castles, but here it's clear that slow and steady wins the race. We'd already gotten so many Wonder Seeds in our last trip to the Petal Isles that this time all we had to do was race Wiggler, which went pretty well, thus giving us access to World 3. Empty Park was super annoying, but that's just how it always is. Next up was the Hoppycat trial, where basically we had to contend with the fact that the Hoppycats were going to more or less always be jumping. Annoying, certainly, but if you crouch, you can sneak your way underneath most of them and finish level pretty safely. The unreachable treasure was far from aptly named, but it did give us our 4th Wonder Seed, unlocking Poof Badge Challenge Crouching High Jump 1, a level which upon entering automatically replaces your badge with the Crouching High Jump badge. I guess that means we can't do this level. That's a bit problematic since it's mandatory for finishing World 3. But that shouldn't be a problem. You see, it's actually possible to skip most of World 3 entirely. All you have to do is join in the second player, position the lead player right here, then walk the second player off screen or thereabouts, then open the menu, I typically like to use the character menu, and voila! The second player will be teleported to the first, but untethered from the restrictions of the paths? Hold on, let me try that again. Guess I must have messed it up. Huh. Still not working. I swear, guys, this exploit normally works. It really doesn't even require particular precision to pull off. Still not working. Huh. Come on, man. You've done this before. There's even video proof of it on your no jumping challenge. What gives? Maybe I messed up something in the settings somehow? I don't know. Oh, no. I'm running version 1.0.1. I wasn't even aware Nintendo had updated the game. If it were a content update, surely I would have at least known it existed. Which means it's a bug fix update, isn't it? Ugh. They must have patched out the speedrunning glitches! Why? Okay, fine. Be anti-fun, Nintendo. That's your prerogative. I'll just uninstall the game, re-download it, and be back to version 1.0. One reinstall later. Why is it still version 1.0.1? I guess they must automatically install the updates when you download an eShop title? Sheesh. One of the few games I buy digitally, and it's the one time that it actually makes a difference. Of course. Don't worry, that's fine, I've got a plan. I'll just buy a physical copy of the game, then I'll uninstall it, disconnect from the internet, and play straight from the cartridge. It's the perfect plan. So I did some research, and apparently it's not the perfect plan. As it turns out, if you try to play a game you've installed updates for on the Switch, it remembers that it's been updated even after you've uninstalled it entirely, and won't actually let you play said game until you connect to the internet and update it. So apparently, my Switch is incapable of ever playing Super Mario Bros. Wonder version 1.0 again. Unless I factory reset it. Unfortunately, I can't really do that because I have a lot of save data on this machine. Some of which is pertinent to concurrent projects I'm working on, and a factory reset would of course wipe all of that out. But not to worry, I've got a plan. I'll just back up all my saves to the cloud, and that way I'll be able to recover them after I factory reset my Switch. It's way more hassle than I thought this challenge would be, but that should do the trick. Okay, bad news. Apparently, there are a few games that are incompatible with cloud saves, but they're mostly irrelevant to me. Little titles like 1-2 Switch, Daemon Ex Machina, Royal Advisor, whatever that is supposed to be. Oh, and every single Pokemon game. Game Freak, come here. I'd like to ask you something. Why? Is it a technical limitation? Something to do with your artistic vision? Or could you just not be bothered? Anyway, the reason that's relevant is one of the concurrent projects I'm working on is a challenge on Pokemon Sword. I'm not exactly keen on losing hours of work on that, so cloud saves are not a viable solution to preserve my data. Perhaps I could just put all my save data on an SD card and preserve it that way? Oh, apparently SD cards are incapable of transferring data between Switches because they have to be reformatted every single time they come into contract with a new Switch. Great. It's not as if transferring data between devices has historically been one of the main functions of SD cards or anything. I think that leaves me with just one option left short of accepting failure on the challenge. I bought the cheapest Switch Lite I could find, thus making me the one single man in the country, or perhaps the world, who owns both a Switch and a Switch Lite. But what I can do now is transfer all of my save data, one game at a time, mind you, for some reason, to the Switch Lite before resetting my main Switch, ensuring to not connect it to the internet and playing Super Mario Bros. Wonder version 1.0 straight off the cartridge. Sure, it took an extra $200-ish in purchasing both a game and a console I already owned, but after all this, I should have a glitchy copy of Super Mario Bros. Wonder to play. What has my life come to? And so, I made a new profile, started a new save file, got the Spring Feet badge, played all the levels we've already gone over, and finally made it back to World 3, where we can walk Toadette just off screen, teleport her over, and walk off the— Okay, why is it still not working? I assure you, this is not a difficult glitch to pull off. I mean, I'm on version 1.0, right? See, it's right here, version 1.0.1? That's not possible! I'm playing straight from the cartridge. I haven't connected to the internet at all since reformatting. I checked Smash Bros. And it wasn't updated at all. Why am I on version 1.0.1? Nintendo didn't update the version on new printings of the cartridge, did they? No, that's crazy. Firstly, the update can't be more than a month or two old since it didn't exist when I made my last Super Mario Bros. Wonder video, and it seems like such an unnecessary thing to do. It's not as if the game was broken without the update. For general audiences and play, that is. But looking at it, it must be the case, because what other explanation could there be? I had to at least test the theory. So I traded my copy of Super Mario Bros. Wonder with a friend who I know for sure bought the game physically before the update came out. And one reformatting later, I inserted the cartridge and finally witnessed the oh so beautiful phrase, version 1.0.0. Finally, I was able to walk Toadette off screen, teleport her back to Luigi, then run off the ledge into this cave, through this warp pipe, and into World 4. Now, we can finally continue our journey. But first, hear me out for a second while I recoup my investment on that Switch Lite, thanks to our sponsor for this video, Atlas, and their upcoming game, Unicorn Overlord. In wake of your mother's throne being usurped, a vast evil empire has conquered not just your kingdom, but the surrounding realms as well. A decade later, it falls to you, the crown prince in exile, to reclaim your birthright and liberate the land from the clutches of evil in this nostalgia-infused epic strategy RPG adventure. Take control of the Liberation Army, devising strategies on both the micro and macro level. Assign your soldiers into units custom-tailored to bring out their best, like this one I've devised, where the armored hoplite in the front lines takes the brunt of the enemy's attacks, keeping the archer and soldier in the back row safe to fire upon the enemy and use some first aid skills to keep the hoplite healthy. You can even customize the specific algorithm your soldiers use to pick their actions in the game's auto-battle system. As an example, Chloe here has an attack that does less damage than her normal one, but never misses. Against most types of soldiers, I prefer the higher damage, but scouts tend to have really high evasion, so against them, the guaranteed hit is much better. Therefore, I've assigned her to check if there are scouts, and if so, to use the guaranteed hit attack. Otherwise, she uses the normal one. You can get pretty granular here, fine-tuning what exact tactics you think will get the job done most effectively. But these skirmishes are just the micro level of the strategy. Zoom out further and you've got compelling real-time tactical battles to contend with, keeping track of things like your unit's ability to support one another, the relative speeds on the battlefield, and their stamina. Zoom out further still and you find that you're not just a mid-battle tactician, you're the mastermind behind this whole campaign, as you cut your own path through the open world, deciding what provinces to pursue liberating and in what order. And if all that's not enough, the whole game comes packaged in a gorgeous classic 2D art style. And if you're still on the fence, you can always give the demo a try, and perhaps play through the entire demo in one sitting when you were supposed to be working on editing a YouTube video. But luckily for me, and you as well, whatever progress you made in the demo will carry over to the full game. Unicorn Overlord comes out March 8th, 2024, and is available for pre-order now on Nintendo Switch, Xbox X/S, PlayStation 5, and PlayStation 4. If you're interested in purchasing, there's a link in the description that should direct you to such avenues. But for now, let's get back to helping Mario along his bouncy journey. The first thing to address here is the fact that this pipe sort of traps us in this cave in World 4. Luckily, it can be escaped by getting a game over. After doing that, we can start actually knocking out these levels. Ninja Jump Party's main gimmick is really difficult to interact with while always jumping, since it's hard to time our jumps properly. But we can get through the level regardless thanks to how high we jump with the Spring Feet badge. We actually managed to take a shortcut in the Desert Mystery, though Color Switch Dungeon is quite annoying on account of how easy it is to accidentally double tap the color switches. Crouching helps with that. Sunbaked Skirmish is more difficult than usual as well, thanks to how difficult it is to aim projectile pots while constantly in motion. Finally, we round things off with the Sunbaked Desert Palace, which goes pretty well. Back in the Petal Isles, this next airship isn't really affected too much by our challenge, since most of it sees you riding clouds. Ditto for Downpour Emperor, which features a lot of swimming. A breezy visit to Ma Ma Mouthful, and we've got access to World 5, where this quiz is made a bit more difficult by our movement controls. But overall, things don't really get tough until Swaying Ruins, where getting through this door requires incredible timing. It is possible, though. The Poison Ruins have historically been pretty tough, but honestly, the Spring Badge arguably makes them much easier to get through. And with that, the Fungi Mines are clear. On our way to World 6, we skip through Muncher Fields without a care in the world, before Wiggler Race Spelunking gives us a real challenge, especially towards the end here with all these jumps. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that a large quantity of jumps would be good for us, but you'd be wrong. As it turns out, being able to move a bit before jumping makes it way easier to get the right jump angle. But with a bit of trial and error, it certainly can be done. Now, just a quick jaunt through KO Arena, and World 6 awaits. Here we tackle an item park, a bunch of boulders, and Rargs in the ruins, before finally facing a worthy adversary in Pull, Turn, Burn. These piranha plants were by far the most annoying part of the whole ordeal. This airship actually went pretty well, and the same could more or less be said for Hot Hot Hot, but certainly not for wavy rides through the magma tube. Prepare yourself for fire shooting at you from all sides while you have very little control of where you are vertically at any given time. The magma ceiling here is particularly punishing, especially when the platforms you're on decide to go up into it. Ducking is your best friend here, trust me. But even so, it takes a lot of finesse to get through this level properly. Finally, we access the palace and best Bowser Jr., again without much issue. That just leaves World 7 in the way of a successful challenge. Let's go. Missile Mag Mayhem is certainly more difficult than normal for two reasons. First is the fact that always jumping makes it so you need to actively keep up with missiles, as opposed to passively riding them. But it also means if you're below the missiles, it's pretty easy to accidentally get shot. Nothing unmanageable though. High Voltage Gauntlet is extremely easy, as usual, and the same applies to evade the Seeker Bolt Bells. Knucklefest, Bowser's Blazing Beats, is a bit tougher than usual since, just like with the missiles from earlier, we don't automatically move with the moving platforms. We have to manually keep up. Adding to this annoyance is the fact that our usual bounce barely moves the platforms at all. Instead, we find ourselves having to do ground pounds, which can be easy to overdo. But have some patience and you can make it through. And that finally brings us to the final level, where the level itself honestly isn't too bad. But the boss fight certainly is. And it all comes down to our lack of rhythm. When you can't control exactly when you jump, it's harder to time your jumps with the beat to attack Bowser. What's considerably worse is dodging the Piranha Plant music notes, especially the big ones where real danger is associated with messing up the timing. Ultimately, it's pretty easy to take a hit here, but as long as you are successfully dodging a decent quantity of the plants, you can persevere and jump on Bowser's head, thus proving that it is possible to beat Super Mario Bros. Wonder while always jumping, so long as you're playing on version 1.0 of the game. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely check out my other 3 Mario Wonder challenges, or even the non-Mario Wonder challenges on the channel. There's over 80 of them for you to indulge in at this point, so go have fun. You'll probably also want to subscribe so you can be notified of my future challenges, like that Pokemon Sword challenge, which I'm working on right now, and is the principal reason I had to buy a whole nother Switch for this challenge. If you want a sneak peek on that one, I'm currently posting videos about it on my Let's Play channel. Oh, and if you really like what I'm doing here and want to support my work, as well as get some perks like getting early access to these videos and voting on future video topics, consider joining my Patreon, like these fine folks on screen. I'd especially like to thank my $15 tier patron, Ashford Says. But anyways guys, until next time, I've been CMeeCraft, and I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye.